Hello.
Okay, we are live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On tonight's show, we have a very special guest. Her name is Hattie Thomas Whitehead, and she's publishing a book next month. The title of the book is Giving Voice to Linnentown. It's about her story in Georgia, and it rings true to other stories, something I've heard here in Southern California, the story of Charles and Willa Bruce in Manhattan Beach. But I see a lot of similarities between something I followed about an eminent domain that was, I think, unjustly imposed. But she can talk more about that. So Hattie Thomas Whitehead, are you there?
Hello, everybody. My name is Hattie Thomas Whitehead. I was born in a small town in Georgia, Athens, Georgia, and I was born in a community called Linnentown. I was born in 1948. I was born in 1948, and I had 3 sisters and 3 brothers. There were 7 of us, and a mother and father. In the community that I was born in, it was a community of relatives and family. It had 3 streets, 2 was unpaved and 1 was paved. And it was a Black community. It was low income. We had low income. But however, this community was made up of hardworking men and women who made $10 to $8 a week salary. But off of that $10 to $8 a week salary, the community reached 60% home ownership. We were, as children, we were accountable to all adults in the community. It was no such thing as talking back. We were accountable for the whole community. In any adults in the community, we were able to play all over the community as children. We were, like I said, we were poor, but we were happy children. We would nestle in a community about 4 blocks from UGA, University of Georgia Stadium. And we were surrounded by white communities on all sides. So this was like in 1958, when I can remember, we lived in a shotgun house, all 9 of us, 3 rooms, living room, bedroom, and kitchen. And the street was mud, it was unpaved. And during that time, the community had asked the city of Georgia, had petitioned the city of Athens to pave the street. The city agreed and approved to pave it. And the other street that was unpaved called London Road, but they never were paved. So the city and the University of Georgia entered into an urban renewal contract in 1962.
And it was with the federal government. It was part of a federal government program, correct?
It was like a HUD. It was a housing program. It's now known as HUD, but it was a federal government program at the time. Early on, I think it was in 1949, the universities could not be a part of the urban renewal. But I think in 10 years later, they were allowed to be a part of this urban renewal program. But we have data back in, I think it was in 1920s, that's told about how the university, we got the data from letters saying that they wanted this property. They called it a Black slum area. Black slum. It was 22 acres. But they wanted this property to expand to build dormitories.
Right.
So they wanted.
So that was the urban renewal, was to expand the university. It was a majority Black, though. Wasn't there like 20% that were also kind of under, like, maybe poor whites? Is that true, or was it all 100% African American?
Linnentown was 100% African American. It was 100% Black, because we called Black in that day. It was 100% Black. There were now the urban renewal project, the whole project maybe have included some areas,
I see.
a different part in a different community, But our community, Linnentown, was 100%
100%
black.
right. And would you call your childhood up until you were 14, would you kind of call it kind of idyllic or, kind of peaceful, self-contained? It seemed like you guys had a pretty kind of ideal it reminded me of kind of a rural, peaceful environment. Would you agree with that?
It was very rural and sort of peaceful environment because we were all self-sustaining. Everything that we needed in the community was there. We had plumbers, we had electricians, we had contractor workers, we had builders, we had architects. They were not called architects, they didn't have the title, but they could build. So we had everything that we needed in the community there that we needed to be self-sustainable.
And you guys had open space. The kids could play outside, fresh air, creeks.
We played outside every day. In fact, we didn't have a playground. We played between the houses because we had no grass in the front yards. All the front yards were dirt. So because we played there all the time. So one year, the kids, the older boys in the area decided that they would fashion us a playground at the edge of the community. We call it the creek. So they fashioned us a playground. They cut down all the bushes and they took vines off the trees, a number of trees, and threw it over a limb of a tree, and they made us a swing. So we could swing back and forth across the creek. That was the most memorable playground that we ever had. We practically lived at that playground, and we were very, very happy.
And your parents also, at that time when it was Linnentown, moved from rental housing to build their own house. Is that correct?
Yes, because the rental houses did not belong they were just rental. That was a shotgun house. So what we had to do in 1958, the lady that owned the property told my parents they had to move because she was going to sell the property. But understanding that nobody in the area knew what was going on. The blacks, our parents, nobody knew what was going on. But she told us that my parents, they had to move. So what my parents did was my dad they wanted to continue to live in the community. So my father purchased a lot on Peabody Street and moved from that same year. It was the latter part of that year. He asked the men in the community to help him build a house, and they did. The men in the community built our house on Peabody Street. So later, before, I think it's around December of 1958, we moved from South Findlay to Peabody Street with the help of the men in the community.
Right. So you had home ownership. Your family now had property ownership at that time, and then you kind of had some difficulties with the planning department, correct? Water and sewage.
My parents had a lot of difficulty. They asked one man in the community was like an architect. He built our house, and my father and him went back and forth down trying to get the information they needed to get the license. Get the correct documents to build a house. And they were told that we would have the running water for sewage and everything before the house was built. So this happened a number of times. They went back and forth, which caused a lot of frustration for not only for my family, but my mom in particular. Because on Peabody, on Findlay Street, we had a bathroom on the porch on the outside. But when we moved to Peabody, we had a bathroom built for a commode and all the appliances that goes in the bathroom. But my daddy couldn't get them to commit to running water, and they never did get the sewage ran on Peabody Street. So what option we had was my dad and Mr. Chill Brown, who was the builder of the house, they had to deal dig an outhouse. And if people don't know what an outhouse is, it doesn't have running water. You just have to dig a hole and put a house around it, a little small house around it. So that my parents had to do that. And only way that we got water to the kitchen is he asked the man next door, the family next door, could he tie into his water line and he would pay the water bill.
Right. So you guys had the house, but all that time it seemed like the University of Georgia was, kind of manipulating things and headed towards this ultimately what was considered an eminent domain, right? So
Yes. Yes.
Can you expand on that?
Well, it was an agreement with what we knew of urban renewal, eminent domain. It was agreement that this federal law that the university and in the city of Athens could enter in this contract because they considered this a slum area. And that's how they were able to get this property. And maybe that's why the city of Athens never did.
Right. All right. So that actually helped them to not develop that, kept that designation
right.
for
keep
that.
It under a line where they could could get urban renewal for it, could get this money and get this property of 22 acres. So they were doing that. So in 1962, that's when the traffic, the bulldozers, the heavy equipment start coming in. But people, the adults in the community still didn't know what was going on because nobody had any meetings with anybody in the community about what was actually happening. Nobody came to the community at all.
It seemed like you guys didn't have like civic representation or attorneys, or maybe it wasn't because you didn't have the resources, bank accounts. So kind of like there was a lot of unequal power.
It was power, and it was power, and it was control. That's why we were calling it white supremacy, because these people, the businesses, the university, the city, all were understanding what was going on except the community.
Do you think did they deliberately kept you in the dark?
Yes. There is nothing in the city of Athens records with our name, Linnentown, on it. It's nothing in UGA records with the name Linnentown on it. It was only referred to as the slum off of Baxter Street.
Right.
So that's what they were referring to in all the paperwork from the president of UGA at that time to the city of Athens, the slum.
So that was like their public relations approach, was to just call it a slum. Nobody's living there. While there's, how many families were there? 60 families, 70 families?
Yes.
And it really hurt the elderly people too, right? So a lot of these people had to move.
Right. A lot of these people, this was like, when I was born there, I was fourth generation to live there with my great grandmother, my grandmother, my aunts and uncles. So when this was before integration, so all the communities was separate, segregated,
right,
during that period of time. This was before integration at all. So you couldn't move anywhere. You had to move from one Black community to another Black community. And during that time, I was involved in civil rights, integrating the city of Athens. So I was being bused and sit-ins and downtown Athens, and being bused to jail and going to Ebenezer Baptist Church West.
Right, and UGA was just integrated right then, 1961, right?
Right, just all of this was happening. So I was being jailed in the day and coming home at night, listening to what was going on in community. So it was a rough time during those years, because all of this took place. It started taking place in, right at 61, and it went all the way to 62.
The beginning of the civil rights movement, really, right there, right at that time.
So it was a lot going on, and I was very involved in both, but I couldn't help my community, even though I was being jailed and trying to help the city of Athens get integrated, I couldn't help my community.
And you were at that time, you had to go in the back of retail stores, and there was
Yes, I
different
had
things for
to.
blacks and whites, right?
I saw when doing the integration, black, colored is what they call it. Colored right here, black, white right here, colored right here. So the signs were there. I sat at the 5 and 10 rest stores trying to get those places, the eateries integrated. I sat at those. I was spit on as I walked with my sign, and I was very young, so that had an impact on me.
Right. So you're only 14, and the Klan is still active at that time, correct?
I remember doing one evening after coming out of the Ebenezer Baptist Church West, going to the varsity on Broad Street, that the Klan was on one side of the street demonstrating, and we were on the opposite side of the street demonstrating. But they had all their paraphernalia on, all the hoodies, everything on. So we had all of that. But I was prior to 14, I was involved too. When it first initially started, and I was a member of the NAACP. So it was a struggle. It was a struggle, but even at that, we felt safe in our community.
Right. So self-contained community. And
Yes.
you had seen some of the early civil rights leaders too. I think it was Meredith. I think it was a kind of a famous name, wasn't he?
Yes, but I didn't meet him though. I didn't see him. We were a small town, so they did send some civil rights leaders down, but they were like college students to help us. So we did organize with our minister at Ebenezer Baptist Church then, which was Reverend Hudson. He was very, very involved and instrumental to help us move from one point to the other for trying to get downtown Athens integrated.
And so how did this process, it's kind of a sad process, like these huge trucks and bulldozers and things get raised and houses get moved as they're kind of moving in, this huge kind of powerful force with backing from the Federal Urban Renewal Program. Can you talk about the change of Linnentown into UGA dorms?
Well, like I said, it took a few years, but during this time, that the transitioning period, which I talk about a lot in my book, the adults didn't know what was going on, but the heavy equipment started coming in, and they started digging ditches, big deep ditches in front of the homeowners' homes, and they would leave them open. And so when we got out of school, we had to jump over these ditches to get in our houses. And these trucks blocked everything. It went from that to closing off streets, so we wouldn't have access to the community but one way. The heavy equipment started up sometimes at 12 o'clock at night and ran all night and came close to the homes, which was frightening. And we had to see some of the neighbors that we loved and supported us. We had to see their houses sometimes pushed over, but with bulldozers, and sometimes set afire by the fire department, which was disheartening. So it was terrorizing to us as children and the adults in the community. It was terrorizing
and hopelessness, like there was no way to fight back, like it was inevitable.
There was no way to fight back, because who were you going to fight? The city and the University of Georgia, two biggest institutions in the city of Athens, were together on getting these 22 acres of land.
All right, so they were set on that land for expansion, and they kind of there's still some, you said, quote in your book, there's a woman who's 101 years old who still remembers those days.
And she's living today. She says she remembers those days, and she hopes that she can live to see some type of justice done.
Some type of justice, right. So you got moved out. They gave what you considered to be a paltry sum to some. Did all families get monies, or there was some type of
type of payout, if you would call it a payout, but it wasn't, because it was under urban renewal. then they had a calculation that they could use to pay very little money. For some people, maybe got one property owner got $600 and something dollars. Some people with got $2,000 something dollars, and people who got lawyers maybe got a little bit more. But our community that was Black got less than 80%. They got 80% less than the white communities on down the street.
So you think you got 20% on the dollar of the value of the houses? Is that correct?
Right. We didn't get that much at all.
You didn't get right. So if your house was worth, what would you think the average house was worth at that time in Linnentown?
I cannot give you the market value of what they were worth that at that particular time, but I can tell you that the disparity was 80%, and the average was around, I think, $4,000.
Gotcha. So
I can't quote it to be exact though, but we didn't get what we should have gotten for the property. And then after the property acquisition was made, we had the property owners had to start paying rent if they hadn't moved by a certain date.
So there was another means to kind of oppressive means of
right
imposing costs on you to move. Yeah. And did you feel that the community leaders were compromised as well at that time? Like you called them the so-called community leaders.
They contacted a few people that they say were community leaders who agreed that that the dormitories could be built there and this doesn't have to be another community. So these were Black individuals that I knew of as a child, but never came to our community. There was nobody from our community ever asked about urban renewal.
Right. So it seems like they engaged in pretty sharp practice. So everybody gets moved out, and the moving process and the relocation was also traumatizing, right?
It was very traumatizing. It was very, very traumatizing, because you got to remember that in my book, I talk about there were only so many areas you could move. This is a small town. There were so many only a limited number of Black areas where you could move to. Even public housing at that time was not integrated. So where were you going to move to? So trying to move a number of people was just absolutely hard. And it was hard to find a place. And there were no banks or nothing to say, we will loan you this money. There was nobody lined up to help anybody. There was nothing. So my parents had to end up moving into public housing.
And, I mean, it's a completely different environment than being outdoors, running around, fresh air, to public housing, right? Can you explain the differences?
Like I talk to, and when I talk about public housing, I'm not downing public housing. I'm just saying that it's hard for a homeowner to go from their own home to public housing, because it limits what you can do as a child. You are very, very restricted. At least in Linnentown, we could explore, we can go to the creek, we could make things that our brothers made contraptions, a pigeon cage, and we could do different things to explore our minds and build things. You could not do that in public housing. It was very restrictive. And not long after we moved to public housing, my mom and my daddy separated because of the stress that they had gone through for all those years living in Linnentown through the urban renewal process. So that threw a wrinkle, basically with me and some of my other sisters and brothers. Two of my younger sister and brother went to live with my aunt. She already had 10 children, but they went to live with her. So my younger brother and I lived with my older sister and brother in the apartment. And my parents brought money by, but still it was not having them there. And
right. So it basically created a split in your family, this forced eminent domain move.
Right. Now, if we had been left alone, all of this would not have happened. We wouldn't have split up as a family, but the stress of it all but it caused it, because I heard the stress of it when I came home each evening with what had happened that day. Some people were in a turmoil. Some, people were crying. I mean, it was hard. It was truly hard on families,
Yeah,
and
they
I don't
say
think
moving is like one of the most stressful things in your life. It's just
right.
moving anywhere.
And just moving is stressful, and even changing schools is stressful. You can multiply that by being kicked out of your community. That's what is devastating, and that stays with you. It doesn't go away. It stays with you.
It's a loss too, because you lose ownership, property ownership, but it's also these opportunity costs. There's other finance that really are tangible. They're not
Right.
intangible, because when you lose the connection to the property, you lose the ability to start a restaurant, barbershop, five and dime store, anything, So all that stuff is really lost. And that's really kind of the down public housing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the thing of it is too, you lose the support that you had in the community.
Right. You lose community, right? That's another, that's tangible. That's
See,
not intangible.
we lost that.
Yeah.
We lost all the supportive people that have been there for us, rooting us on, and we lost
And
that in addition.
that's how your house got built in some ways, is the community support, right? People came over, helped
Yes.
out.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's how I got built. The men in the community built it.
Yeah.
But once the house was built, we couldn't build another one. There was not enough time to regroup.
Right. Yeah, it's really terrible. And you, interestingly, you had I think your state rep wrote the intro to the book, right? Can you talk about that?
Yes. Once the data was found, once Dr. Joseph Carter found the data in 2018 and done the research and brought us together, looked for the descendants. Once he found that, because he was trying to understand how did University of Georgia grow, how did they expand? So, and he found the data that had been archived under the urban renewal number. So
it's like R50 or something, right?
Yes, that's how we found it. It was GAR50.
GR50, that's right. Yeah.
That's how he found the data. And once he found the data and started researching it, and he put out information about trying to get fillers out to find the first descendants. And once we got organized, once he contacted one and the other one, we just contacted each other, and we came together and really was organized around. It's not a whole lot of us. I think it was like 7 of us at the beginning, 7 seniors. But we determined that we wrote a resolution, and we was determined that we was going to get involved in this, and we was going to try to bring justice to some of the unjust that had been done to our community. At this time, since we had the data, we thought it would be much easier.
And there have been recent developments, correct?
Oh, there have been recent developments. Our mayor, after writing the resolutions and having community meetings in the community, going on tours, taking people on tours, talking to the commissioner and mayors, and any way we could get the raising awareness, we did that. And in February of 2020,
Right.
the resolution was voted on, and it was approved. It was voted on, and we received a unanimous vote on the resolution.
And so you have the involvement, and there, like, people are like recognizing the situation. What
Yes.
do you think the next steps are going to be, or what do you anticipate the progress will be that takes place?
Well, our mayor has done really well. The first thing we wanted was an apology, acknowledgement, and an apology for what happened. That was the first thing we wanted, and so he did write a proclamation which included an apology, and he put a team together that's led by descendants, a descendants-led team to work on atonements, that are outlined in the resolution. So we have been meeting since September of last year, working on the avenues of atonement, which is a form of reparations. We could not get direct payout in Georgia because of the gratuity clause in Georgia, which prevents direct payout. So we had to figure out, okay, we cannot get direct payouts, then what are we going to do? So we decided to have an allotted sum of money in the city budget, that Athens Clarke County budget, that we could work with and identify some things that we wanted to implement. And one thing that we wanted was a Black History Center, because we don't have one here. So we're working on putting that together. We wanted a minimum wage increase for all Athens Clarke County employees, whether they were full-time or part-time. And this past month, I think in July, all the Athens Clarke County employees who work for Athens Clarke County got a $15 an hour wage increase, which is a tremendous accomplishment.
Good.
We wanted a recognition of a place down where the community once stood. We wanted a walk of recognition in that area. And we had asked University of Georgia, could we put a walk of recognition down Finley Street? And we never did get a reply. Asked more than one time and never did get a reply. So we're going to put a walk of recognition on the city of Athens right away. So it's going to be there. It's going to be a mosaic and 3 other signs with information that was a community there at one time.
Right. I mean, it's incredible. In this, you have a lot of pictures of your family in that area, but also a lot of documentation at the back of your book. And looking at it, it's pretty remarkable that they thought urban renewal was to build these huge, blocky, dorms or whatever. I don't know how that qualifies as urban renewal, but they said there's this astonishing fact here. What's the document? It's the Linnentown Resolution for Recognition and Redress, February 16, 2021. The remarkable thing that they put in writing is that, let me find this. The city of Athens sold all Linnentown properties to the University System of Georgia for $216,000, and by 2019, the university's current land value plus improvement of the property totaled $76 million for an ROI, return on investment, of 35,000%.
Yes.
So there's a lot of money involved.
It's a lot of money involved. University of Georgia has refused to come to the table with this team that the mayor of Athens put together, and we're working now. We meet once a month to try to figure out things that we need to do, but they have refused to come to the table at all. And they're hiding behind that everything was done then by the law.
Right. But I mean, that's the whole thing. It's all eminent domain is legal. Urban renewal has a legal term to it. There's a quote here from your thing. Activist James Baldwin said urban renewal is Negro removal. So he seemed to key into the real agenda of that. But also, it's just a tremendous amount of money. They eyeballed something they could increase incredible value. So it's a shame. It's a shame.
Yes.
Shameful.
If they had bought the land outright, then we wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't be having wouldn't having the problems that we had.
Do you know if they had bought it outright at current values in '62, what they would have had to have paid? Has that ever been quantified? I just think it would be interesting.
No, I haven't.
Because if they paid $216, but the actual real values, $1 million, that's also another indicator that something really.
They had land swaps and all of that included in that number that they paid, but so it's hard to tell when you look at that number what all happened for them to pay $216,000. He's like, really? But it was a lot of land swaps and things that they did to get it at that low price.
Right. It's just, I mean, these universities have tremendous resources too. So it's all the unequal leverage between working class families and a university, and that's just it's a disgrace. So this book comes out in September. Where's the best place for people to find Giving Voice to Linnentown?
Is giving voice to Linnentown.com.
Giving Voice to Linnentown, all one word.com, is that correct?
Yeah, giving voice to Linnentown.com.
And it'll be digital copy and hardbound, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so and you can get it there. So I definitely recommend people buy a book from the authors or publishers. So don't go to Amazon. Try to, I mean, I don't want to say that too much, but go buy it buy all your books from the authors is really the best way to do it. Do you have, so if anybody wants to reach out to you or social media, is there a way to contact you or Twitter or anything?
You can reach me out on social media. You can reach basically on
the website.
On the website.
Do you have a contact information there?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on the website. You can give voice to Linnentown. You can reach out there, or basically you can you can be able to reach there.
Cool. Okay. If anybody wants to talk to you, or also, like I said at the intro, the story that happened in Southern California was called Bruce's Beach. I would recommend everybody listen. And Hattie, you check that out too, hopefully. But it's kind of it reminded me of your story as well, where the percentage of growth in value over what happened was an abomination. It was terrible. But thanks for writing this book. Again, the title of the book is Giving Voice to Linnentown, and the author is Hattie Thomas Whitehead, and it will be published in September of 2021. Thank you so much. Still there?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on. I'm going to end the broadcast. All right. That was great. So